I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Cheryl Lovato-Niles. I am the Water Resources Educator with WSU Extension in Whatcom County, and I am a proud partner to the Whatcom Watersheds Information Network, and which we call WIN for short. And WIN's mission is to help protect and restore our local waters and watersheds through information sharing, collaboration, education, and public engagement through events such as this one. And I'm here tonight with Haley Sanders, who is with the City of Bellingham and is also a WIN partner. And she and I are delighted to be co-hosting this event tonight in our capacity as WIN members. And we have a fantastic lineup of speakers this evening who are going to be able to provide a really great overview of drinking water in Whatcom County, whether you get your water from a municipal system, or the city, Ferndale or Bellingham, or whether you get your water from a private well or from a water association, you're going to learn something about your drinking water tonight. And we're also going to have some great pointers on how to save this precious resource. So after each speaker is going to have some time to present. And then after each speaker, we're going to have some time for questions. And you can be free to unmute yourself to ask your question verbally if you'd like. That's totally okay and will be fun and nice if you want to do it that way. Or if you'd rather, you can also put your question into the chat. And if you're putting your question into the chat, there's no need to wait until after the presentation is over in order to put that question in. You can go ahead and put it in when it occurs to you. And let's see, another bit of protocol. So during the presentation, if you can keep your mic muted other than when you're asking a question, that would be super. And then also, I personally always like to see people's faces when I make presentations. It's a nicer experience for me. So if you're willing, I would invite you to turn your camera on so that we can see your face. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Haley, who is going to introduce herself and our first speaker.
Hey, thank you, Cheryl. My name is Haley Sanders. I work for the City of Bellingham Public Works Department. I'm part of the Education and Outreach Communications team. And today I'm super excited to introduce our very first speaker, Ingrid Enschede. Ingrid's going to talk to us today about the difference between surface water and drinking water. Ingrid has almost 30 years of experience working in the fields of natural resource management, education, and communication. She's enjoyed working as a park ranger for the National Park Service, supporting salmon recovery efforts in eastern Idaho, teaching 7th grade science and math, and getting outside to collect data over the years. She's worked for Whatcom County Public Works since 2009, supporting stormwater management, communication, and pollution prevention programs. Ingrid has a BA in Environmental Studies from Western Washington University and a graduate certificate in secondary K-12 teaching from Boise State University. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat at any time, and we'll have some questions here for Ingrid at the end. But on that note, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Haley. And so before I start the PowerPoint slides, just to introduce myself a little bit more, again, I'm Ingrid Enschede, and I work for Whatcom County Public Works Natural Resources. And my job is pretty much to help community members keep fecal bacteria pollution out of our community's waterways. And I do that with a great team. I work with my Public Works team and the Whatcom Clean Water Program team, and we look to identify sources of bacteria pollution and correct them, work with community members to keep our waterways clean and encourage them and help them do things to keep pollution out of local waterways. So in that work, I'm out talking to community members about surface water pollution and surface water, the importance of keeping surface water clean. And I find that often people I talk to have questions about their drinking water. So I'm going to get us started off with kind of just a little high-level overview, set the stage of the difference between surface water and drinking water, how they're connected, what things they have in common, ways that they're different. talk a little bit about how pollution can move through systems, because that's a real concern people have. They want to make sure they're drinking water and their water is safe and unpolluted. And so I'm going to get us started off with a little fun recap of the water cycle. So stand by while I share my screen. Okay, and I found these really lovely vintage drawings. The pre-computer era, these drawings were done for our office program back in the 90s, and I thought, what a great way to use these. So a quick review of the water cycle. You know, kids start learning this in elementary school. It's something that we're all exposed to as we go through our required science classes. Our water is all part of the same discrete system. It's all a common resource as it moves from, say, precipitation, clouds, the vapor stage falling out as rain onto the ground, where it either runs off the ground as surface water or percolates down. If I move my mouse, does that show up on the screen as a pointer? Great. Surface water then goes down into, some of it soaks down and becomes groundwater. Groundwater could come out and pop out as a spring on this hillside and flow back down to the surface water, could make it down to the ocean, and the cycle repeats. So to start off, difference between, surface water, this lovely creek in your backyard, and drinking water coming out of your tap. How are they the same and how are they different? So I came up with this fun little table, and I was actually kind of surprised myself with how many things I could think that they had in common. So as we've already covered, they're part of the same physical system, the same water cycle, the same watershed. It's a shared resource that we'll talk more about later tonight. They're both regulated by government in different ways. They're both managed for quantity, right? So I'm sure you're familiar with water rights, the idea that you have a legal right from the state of Washington for how much water you could use for, say, a farm or the oil refinery, or how much does the city get to provide drinking water. At your home, your drinking water is managed for quantity. If you live on if you have a water utility provider, you probably have a water meter that's managing the quantity. Where they're different is when we talk about what's managed for safe consumption. So drinking water is managed for safe consumption, which means there's some level of treatment, there's some sort of process in place to make sure that it's safe for you to drink, to cook, to bathe in. And we're going to talk about that later tonight. And then, of course, it's piped into buildings for use, assuming that it's safe. It's very regulated what can be piped into your building for use. So how does surface water pollution affect drinking water? Because when I send letters out to the community, letting them know that we have a bacteria pollution problem in their neighborhood, the people who are calling me are worried about their drinking water. Understandably so. You want your drinking water to be safe. You want to make sure you and your family are safe and healthy. So first we have to think about treatment. So there's different ways to treat water to remove pollutants and make it clean. We have natural treatment that occurs in groundwater because the surface water, as it soaks through the soil, everything in the soil, like roots of plants that are taking it up, fungi, the soil, the rock particulates, that all functions like a big underground water filter, a natural filter that as water percolates through, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, the pollution is getting filtered out. And then we also have, technological treatment through treatment facilities like a water treatment plant. And there's any number of ways that we've, developed technologies and facilities over the year to make sure we remove pollution from water to make sure it's safe to drink. So how does surface water pollution affect your drinking water? Well, it depends. In general, the more polluted the surface water is, the more it's going to increase treatment requirements and cost. Maybe that looks like the city that you live in has to increase, do something new and extra and bigger at their treatment plant. Maybe you have a shallow well and you have to pay to dig a deeper well or drill a deeper well to get more of that natural treatment. And of course, it also depends on the actual type of pollution. Some of it stays in the water, the water chemistry, which we're not going to get into tonight, and is not my area of expertise, right? But that's the other factor. It depends on what type of pollution or pollutant is in the water. So this is another one of those fun pencil drawings. And this is just an example of, let's say, a rural landscape here in Whatcom County, and how you might have some pollution sources up here, like this pile of manure. And one way that surface water problems affect drinking water is if, say, nitrogen pollution in the form of nitrates leaches down from manure, and it may not get filtered out through the groundwater, and it might end up in this family's well. Or depending on the geology and the depth of the well, it might get filtered out and your well might be safe. And I'll talk later on tonight about what to do. How do you know the difference? We also have surface water going downstream, and maybe it soaks into the ground here, and this tree sucks the water up and it evaporates it through transpiration out to the sky, and it gets cleaned up naturally that way. And then this is just an example of a water treatment plant. This is the Linden water treatment plant. At least that's what the internet tells me. So just an example of that, using technology to filter our water. So I'm going to segue here to where do we get our drinking water in Whatcom County? So of course, there's two major sources, our surface water, and the major sources of surface water for our communities are the Nooksack River and Lake Whatcom. And then there's groundwater. So you have groundwater aquifers and wells that tap into those aquifers and pull the water out. So those are the two ways that we, where we get our water. More specifically, here's just some examples of where different communities get their drinking water. This map comes from the county's designated water service. Oh wait, I'm blocking my view here. The County Coordinated Water System Plan, and I'll show you later on tonight where you can find this online if you want to look into it. But examples of where different communities get their drinking water. So Birch Bay and City of Blaine have a shared water utility, and that drinking water comes from wells that tap into a deep aquifer to the east of Blaine. City of Ferndale used to have surface water from the Nooksack River. Now they switched over to wells, so they have their own well system. Lummi Nation has wells. They have wells on the reservation that goes to everything that they provide water to. They get a little bit of supplemental if they need it from City of Bellingham. City of Bellingham gets their water from Lake Whatcom, as does the Lake Whatcom Water Sewer District. So this whole area here, Lake Whatcom with a little bit of augmentation from the middle fork of the Nooksack River via a diversion dam if it's necessary. Everson has wells. So City of Everson shares with City of Nooksack, and they have some wells near downtown Everson. City of Linden gets theirs from the Nooksack River. So just some examples. It's a mix of wells, groundwater, and surface water coming from Nooksack River and Lake Whatcom. We have different types of drinking water systems, which you'll learn more about tonight. So you might have a water utility that could be a big city provides water services, would be like the City of Bellingham. Peg's going to talk tonight. Could be a water district like the Birch Bay Water and Sewer District. It could be an association, and George is going to speak tonight about what a water association does. Or you might have your own private system that is the property owner's responsibility to install and maintain and manage. So most of those are going to be wells. That's by far the most common, but you could potentially have a surface water withdrawal. Example is people that get their water directly from Lake Whatcom and Lake Samish, or a rainwater cistern. And just because visuals are fun, oh, my visuals went away. No. Okay, that's it for that one. Sorry, I'm segueing my, I have some visuals when we get to this section of the presentation. I'm filling in for the health department later. So I'm going to stop sharing and take questions.
Hey, thank you so much, Ingrid. So at this point here, if you have any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask, or if you're more comfortable, you're welcome to pop those questions into the chat here. All right, looks like we've got a couple coming in for you, Ingrid. First things first, question for you. Where does Point Roberts drinking water come from?
Ooh, I don't know. That is an excellent question. I can find out if someone wants to, how should we work that? You can just put your name in the chat and I'll get it out. And a phone number or an email would be great.
Yeah, we have the record here. Yeah, if you don't put an email in there, we can follow up for you there. Some other questions for you tonight. What might be the reason for an unusual smell, for an occasional smell, to the water coming out of your tap?
Oh, out of tap. Well, others, we might be able to crowdsource this one. I mean, one example is, in the summertime, right? Like could be swampy smells that come from algae. Does anyone have any other examples? I think you might be able to get like a sulfur smell depending on, like, for example, I grew up near a sulfur spring and there was sulfur naturally occurring in the water.
Yeah, I mean, if we can have more information, sulfur can also be from your hot water tank, your anode corrosion, believe it or not. There's lots of reasons for taste and odor, and I'd be happy to talk to you offline, but I'd need more information.
Anyone else in the audience have any questions for us here today?
Hey, good questions. Thank you.
All right,
All
Sharon,
right.
we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, it sounds like it will be my pleasure now to introduce Peg Wendling, who is going to talk to us about municipal public drinking water systems. And Peg Wendling has a master's degree in public health from Oregon State University with research in disinfection byproducts. She supervises both the City of Bellingham state certified laboratories and has worked for the City of Bellingham for 33 years. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Peg.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So I want to share. Do I let you do that or can I do it? Should I allow myself or do you need to?
You should be able to do that. And I think if you do that, then it'll just automatically well, Ingrid's slides are unshared now.
All right, can you see that?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. It always happens. Okay, let's try this one.
This is looking promising. There we go. So we see the slides. We don't see presenter view yet, but we do see your slides. There we go. Now it's a presenter view.
I am delighted to discuss the City of Bellingham drinking water with you tonight. I applaud all of you for showing up on such a beautiful night. I've only got 15 minutes and I've got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to go quickly, but I encourage you to contact me. I'm going to provide my name and phone number at the last slide, and I would love to talk to you if you have issues, certainly about water quality. I'm the one that gets a lot of those calls. If you're in the City of Bellingham and have issues with your water, there's lots of things we can talk about there too. I'm going to talk about the source of drinking water for the City of Bellingham, the service area, what we do for treatment and water quality and regulations. As this slide shows, Lake Whatcom is the source of water for over 100,000 people in Bellingham and near Bellingham areas. The lake is 10 miles long. It's 1 mile wide at the widest point. It's got 250 billion gallons in it. 3 distinct basins. Basin 1, the one you see most north here in this slide. Can you see my cursor here? This is the basin that's in the city limits. Only 4% of the watershed is actually in city limits. Certainly it's the most densely populated part of the watershed. Basin 2 in the Geneva areas where the city has its intake. And Basin 3 is by far the largest portion of the lake by volume, something like 94% of the water volume, 96%. I've seen that as well. Deepest portion is 328 feet in Basin 2. When you realize that the surface elevation is at 314 mean feet above sea level, it's actually below sea level.
Below sea level.
Yeah, crazy, right? I love this picture. In this picture, we are looking south.
This is live, but
In this picture, we're looking southeast from Basin 1. So we're in the city limits. The city limits are definitely the most densely populated portion of Lake Whatcom, though I will say that every drop of rain that ends up in the lake receives some sort of treatment if you're in the city limits. But what I like about this picture is you can see Basin 1 really clearly. You're looking towards Basin 2 and just a little bit of Basin 3. You really do realize that our watershed is mostly forested. They say it's about 80% in forest condition. And I'll tell you, the water quality that we see coming into the treatment plant is exceptional. We actually, there's a water quality constituent called turbidity, which we use in our industry. It means really, it's just a rough indication of the cloudiness of the water coming in. And the raw water coming into the treatment plant would meet the turbidity limits for treated water most of the time. So we're lucky to have a surface of like 70% of people in the US drink water from, or served water from a surface water source. And I'll tell you, a lake is vastly superior often to a riverine source because rivers are much more subject to weather and turbidity events that come from big weather and scouring the side walls of any stream, that kind of thing. So we're quite fortunate to have a lake that is still really serves us really good water. It was first used as a public source in the late 1800s. As Ingrid mentioned, we have the ability to divert water from the middle fork of the Nooksack. There was a dam there that was taken down in 2022 to a more environmentally sensitive system. And really, we only provided screening and disinfection until about 1968, where the treatment plant that we use now was initiated. So we also have done some major upgrades to that 1968 treatment plant. The most, I think, the largest being the dissolved air flotation system that we put in 2018. I'll talk about in a later slide. This is a really timely time to talk about City Bellingham water. I put a link here on this slide. We had just submitted in March our updated water system plan, also known as a comprehensive water plan, a comp plan. All Group A water systems in the United States with over 1,000 service connections are required to have a water system plan. The Department of, in this state, the Washington Department of Health is the one that reviews it. We submitted it to them in March. Once we get their input, we're anticipating that in the next couple of months, we will hold a public hearing. So we're hoping to have that public hearing in early fall. Comprehensive water plan, the whole point of it is to plan for the water demands for your service population to make sure that you provide adequate clean water, that you provide adequate pressure. And why do we care about pressure? Well, sure, we want you to have a nice shower, but as a water provider, it's also our obligation to make sure that we are not overpressurizing the system, which would be tough on your appliances, tough on the plumbing. And we don't want to underpressurize because another major function that we serve is to provide fire protection. So we want to make sure if a fire breaks out at the end of our system on Slater Road that we can provide fire suppression. The plan also contains things having to do with water conservation. We do a system analysis with plans for capital improvements. That's replacing old infrastructure or providing for new infrastructure. We also discuss things like water quality and treatment. Let's talk for a minute about our service area. This map shows the City of Bellingham's direct service area. This comes directly from the Water Comprehensive Plan. The city of Bellingham's direct service population is just under 100,000. From the north end, we go as far as Slater Road. To the south, we go as far as Larrabee State Park. East, we even serve as far as Everson Goshen, and to the west, Bennett Road. These colors indicate the city's various pressure zones. We have 12 of them. I did talk about why we care about pressure. This is another depiction of our direct service area. That big blue area is our largest pressure zone, our north pressure zone, but what we also know as our gravity zone. Most of our customers are in this zone, and the nice thing about the gravity zone is exactly what you'd think. You don't need a pump to get the water to you, nor does it sit in a water reservoir. We treat it, and gravity brings it to you. For all of our other customers in the other zones, we have 13 water reservoirs as well as 15 pump stations to make sure that the water is provided at sufficient pressure. We have 30 million gallons of storage in our water distribution system, and we serve water from sea level to 780 feet above sea level. But there's more. You don't have to be in the city of Bellingham direct service area to drink water treated by the city of Bellingham. As Ingrid mentioned, we do have some wholesale water systems, are also known in the regulations as consecutive systems. And these are systems that will wholesale treated water to just outside of our jurisdictional boundaries. But it's up to that water system to provide, the pipes, the storage, the customer connections. They'll do the billing, and they'll do some water quality work in their systems as well. You're going to hear from George Kaas a little later tonight. He's as part of Water District 7, but we also have many other water districts. Here's a map that kind of depicts it. I did want to mention that doesn't mean that these systems, that is their sole source of water, as Ingrid had mentioned. We're just a supplemental source for like that big pink area of Lummi Tribal. We just supplement their water needs, often mostly in the summer. So you get the idea there. I wanted to talk next about water treatment. When I give tours, I think it's really important. I always tell people that the World Health Organization tells us that 2 million people are going to die each year from contaminated drinking water. It's something we don't even consider in this country. And as a matter of fact, if you went to the tap, got a glass of water, you would never even dream that glass of water would be the cause of your death. We're fortunate in this country that, and in many other countries, that we prioritize, we're very vigilant about treating drinking water, removing the influence of wastewater systems from drinking water. It's actually had a huge impact on morbidity and mortality. Here is a depiction of the city of Bellingham's water system. As I mentioned, Lake Whatcom's our water source. We put in a direct filtration plant in 1968. And besides this first pre-treatment step, which I'm going to talk about last, the treatment plant's maintained its footprint and it's been really an effective treatment plant for us. A direct filtration is a process where you add a positive coagulant chemical, which causes particles that would naturally repel each other to coalesce. And then we send that coagulated water to the filter beds. So you can see we have 6 filter beds. They're comprised of anthracite and sand. And conventional treatment has a sedimentation step that we bypass altogether. It really is the best way to treat water from Lake Whatcom because Lake Whatcom acts as basically a sedimentation basin for us. And then we have the added advantage of having that cation that we've applied to the water follow through to the head of the filters. So that, believe it or not, the best filters aren't ones that we've just cleaned, we've backwashed and cleaned. The best filter is one that's been aligned a little bit. And so that cation is there in the upper couple inches of that filter bed. Other particles that have been captured by that cation are there helping us capture more particles. It's a process in our industry known as filter ripening. So we want to ripen those filters so that they're optimized for removing anything that may come into contact with that filter bed. And then we generate via electrolysis, we generate chlorine. So we chlorinate after we filter. We chlorinate using sodium hypochlorite. And sodium hypochlorite is a very strong oxidant. It's basically bleach. It's really the backbone of the bleach that you might use in your home, but it's 10 times weaker. And we generate that bleach on site. And then we also adjust the pH of the water as it leaves the water filtration plant. The reason there is pretty simple. We have very pure water And pure water is great, but pure water also tends to be corrosive. And where it's going to corrode is our customers' plumbing, our pipe network getting to your homes. So we found that by using sodium carbonate, which is a compound very similar to baking soda, we adjust the pH to a level of 8, and we found a great reduction in corrosivity of our pure water. Then I wanted to talk last about the beginning of the process, because this was just put in 2018. We had been noticing Lake Whatcom getting increasing levels of algae. A lot of work's been done. I think a lot of good work's been done in the watershed, but we still were seeing some increases in algae. And what we decided to do, and this is a technology that we actually borrowed from the mining industry, the water industry now uses, it's called dissolved air flotation. We super saturate water with oxygen and then use very engineered size bubbles to bubble that oxygen, highly oxygenated water through a tank, this flocculation basin that you see here, and are able then to skim what we bubble to the surface. If you're trying to remove algae, good luck. You're not going to have any luck using gravity settling. It's going to take it just will not be very effective. Algae is meant to be neutrally buoyant in the water column as it tries to get sun for photosynthesis. So by floating it, we've gotten a much greater clarity in our water. It used to be in the summer, we would turn a filter on, one of our 6 filters, and get in the summer, maybe if we were lucky, 15 hours before we needed to clean it. Since we put in the DAF in 2018, we will get easily 50 hours out of one filter. And we have found just through having that cleaner water entering our filter gallery that we save at least 68 million gallons of water a year, which in and of itself is a lot of water. We'll look at this graphic just a little bit longer. These gray bubbles above each of the treatment steps tells you what we are monitoring continuously online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the treatment plant itself. We do have at least one operator, at least one, usually more, on shift every moment, 24 hours a day, making sure the processes are working correctly, making sure everything is going well. I also have someone out in the distribution system every day, Christmas, Sunday, it doesn't matter, sampling water in our distribution system to make sure that it's free of any microbes and that it has sufficient disinfectant residual. So how do we know water's safe? All Group A water systems in the United States are required to comply with the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act. The act was initiated in 1974, and the Environmental Protection Agency is the head agency. In the state of Washington, we're a primacy state. So as I mentioned before, we actually report mostly to the State Department of Health. As an industry, a water industry, we call it the multi-barrier approach. We like to look at it like a 3-legged stool, like your source protection is important, your optimizing, your treatment is important, but also your distribution system is important. We need to make sure that we maintain integrity of the water through all those 3 phases. So the Safe Drinking Water Act has many provisions to ensure the nation's drinking water is safe. Some of the examples, it's a long list. I'm not going to hit all of them, but the 3rd bullet down talks about phase 2 and 5 regs. And those are things like your inorganics, your synthetic organics, your volatile organics. We're all required to look for those, to monitor for those. Things like, because we have surface water, we need to comply with the surface water treatment rule. And in that rule, we look at the hardest thing to deactivate, which is a protozoan cyst with chlorine. And we make sure we're able to do that, deactivate that. Things like the lead and copper rule. That's where we go into our customers' homes once we have verified have leaded solder. Leaded solder was banned in 1987, but we have them sample under worst case scenario conditions, and we look at evidence of corrosion of lead and copper pipe in those homes. And then maybe I'll end here because I'm running out of time with the PFAS, which is our newest federal regulation. And also actually the state of Washington has this PFAS regulation before they got tired of waiting for the federal government. And so the state of Washington actually enacted a PFAS regulation itself. And the PFAS are those forever chemicals that you've been hearing about a lot in the news. We've been required to monitor for those. Luckily, the city of Bellingham has not found any detections, even at the very low part per trillion level. Of these, I'm going to wind up. All these regulations too have to do with public right to know. So it's important you know about that. One of them is the public notification rule. Whereas a water utility, we need to let you know if there was an issue with your drinking water. The timing of letting you know depends on the severity of the incident we had. But if, for example, we had a bacteria incident where we found fecal coliform or E. coli in the water, we would need to let you know within 24 hours. And that would be, you've probably heard of boil water notices. We'd have to blanket our customers, let them know there is an issue and you need to know. We are required by law to do that. The other, like if there's something else, like let's say we neglected to monitor for something and the state decided, okay, you monitored, you were late, you still need to let customers know. That might be something that we could let you know on an annual basis. The other public right to know is something called the Consumer Confidence Report. We are required by law to let all of our customers know what's in the water. And we need to let you know by July 1st of each year. Believe it or not, this rule was also revised. And in 2028, you're going to get this 2 times a year. The Consumer Confidence Report is a document that we're required to have this table. This table is called a detects table. If we found something, we need to let you know on this table. And it's also regulated. It's very prescriptive as to what this table needs to have in it. If we found something, we need to let you know at what level. We need to let you know what ranges we found it, that kind of thing. We need to let you know the health effects of that thing that we found if we found it above the maximum contaminant level. So this is something, and we are also required to provide a phone number, as I have here. If you have any questions, you'll get that in your consumer confidence report as well, same phone number. But I do welcome you to call me if you've got issues, questions, concerns, and I haven't addressed them tonight. My phone number's there, and I would really look forward to talking with you. The consumer confidence report, maybe I'll say one last thing is we send that via direct carrier route. So that if you drink water in Bellingham, you're going to get this. We send it like they send junk mail, but we do that intentionally. Otherwise, this might end up going to a landlord that lives in Arizona or if someone else that is not at that physical residence. So this is sent out every year. You should be getting yours in probably about a month for the water that we analyzed in 2024.
Thank you so much, Peg. Wow, I learned a lot. So there's just a couple of questions in the chat so far. So if anybody else has a question for Peg, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question or to submit it in the chat. But I'll read the 2 that we have. The first is it really beneficial or recommended to use water filter for drinking water?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I'll tell you, aesthetically, I get it. People don't like chlorine. The only other thing I tell people, if you're worried about, the only thing we find in the water is disinfection byproducts. And disinfection byproducts are this large macromolecule that you get when chlorine combines with organic matter. The epidemiologists, those scientists that study disease, will tell us that there is a very low but significant risk of intestinal cancers with a lifetime consumption of chlorinated surface water. The levels we find are really low, and since we added that dissolved air flotation system, even lower. But if you want as little risk as possible, sure, go ahead and filter, but make sure you get a filter that's certified by the NSF, the National Sanitation Foundation, because really the filter people can tell you anything. They can tell you, yeah, we can remove this and this and this, and no one's calling them to their claims. But the NSF is the organization that will. And so if it's NSF certified to remove chlorine, disinfection byproducts, you can feel comfortable that your money is well spent and it should be able to remove that. But I will say one other thing. Like I said, we respond to customer issues. And I have in my career with the city gone to several issues that people are having GI distress. And it's because they have a filter that they haven't maintained well. When you have a filter, you've got this great, usually carbon environment. You have no disinfectant, usually strips it out. And so that can be a source of microbial contamination. So you need to be really good about scrupulously maintaining that filter, or you may just be causing even more issues.
Oh, thank you. And then we had another question. There was something in the news about the Post Point water treatment plant being fined. And the question is, what was that for?
Yeah, I'm here talking about drinking water. That is the good question that has to do with the wastewater plant. If you have more information, I can certainly get you the right people and we can talk about that. I don't know of any fines, to be honest. I know there was a notice of violation issued at the wastewater plant, but I'm not aware of any fines. So there may be something I'm just not aware of.
All right, so you're pointing out drinking water
Yeah.
and wastewater, two separate
You got my number. Call me.
processes.
Yeah, if you've
Okay.
got something, I don't want to steer you wrong. It might be something I'm just not aware of, but no, I do not believe there's been a fine issued in any recent time.
Peter, it looks like you put your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I do. Peg, thank you very much. I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about what happened last year where there was a sewer break right near the bridge
Oh,
and
yeah.
how quickly the water cleared up. We were very concerned about that. And I wanted to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, no, that was so unfortunate. You're talking about Electric Street there.
Yeah.
That was so awful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think, I do think that they try to do everything right. The problem being, when you've had a water system that's been in service since the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was well, this is actually the wastewater side. There was a wastewater pressure pipe that we were not aware of that was in service. And I believe my understanding is that we even had divers in to make sure this didn't happen, because this is not unusual. I mean, you think you know your water system, but we didn't keep great records back in the 20s and in the 30s. And some of those records weren't clear, even if they did keep them. And I believe they were doing pile driving to, get that bridge, the electric ave bridge, to support it better. And the contractor hit that pressure sewer line, and yeah, it was a horrible mistake. I think they did everything they could to try to prevent that from happening. We went out that night. We were out at 10 at night sampling in that area. Yeah, I did a lot of sampling close below Del Donovan, which is the one swim area that is, yeah,
Right.
the swim area, and continue to monitor. But yeah, that's what I got for you. Anything else?
So in the monitoring that you did was our drinking water ever in
No.
danger? Okay.
No,
And why do you think that
fortunately, yeah.
is? Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
here, let me back up if I can, because our water intake is in basin 2.
Yes.
So the break happened here, way over here, and our water intake's here. Though I did go in and monitor in this area because I was concerned more about Lodell.
Can you plug in, Dylan? That
Yeah,
white
so
cable doesn't work too well.
So that was kind of what helped us. Definitely, we were doing it ramped up monitoring. You don't want to, over an overabundance of caution. We did additional raw water monitoring. We do it anyways. We're required to do raw water monitoring for bacteria, anyways. But we ramped that up a bit as well. The kind of interesting about Lake Whatcom, there's really only one natural outlet, and that's it here on this end where the water's flowing in that direction, anyways. So yeah, fortunately, it was not observed at all in the drinking water.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I wonder if it's possible to very quickly answer one final question before we move on. We have one last question. Are backflow preventers required for buildings? And if not, is that a potential source of contamination?
For building, I need more information, and definitely the planning department. But yes, the plumbing codes are really clear who needs backflow prevention, and the type of preventer you get is definitely dependent on the risk category, where you'd need a double check assembly if you're a wastewater plant, or you'd need, you know what I mean? So, I mean, but I would recommend, just as a, make sure your hose bibs have vacuum breakers, okay? Because water's going to flow in and out of a hose, and I've had those complaints too. People calling and saying my water tastes terrible. Make sure that vacuum breaker is intact. Make sure you close your hose off at the valve, because water will flow in and out. It's a pressure transient. Water's going to flow. It just does in a home. But I need to know more about your building to know whether you needed a PRV. So you've got my number. I'd be happy to help you there.
Great. Thank you so much. I think
Yeah.
now we will turn it over to Haley again.
Great, and I'm just going to really quickly throw it back to Ingrid here. Ingrid is filling in for us here today, representing the County Health Department, and we're talking about private drinking water systems.
And you are muted, Ingrid. There we go.
Okay, I'm unmuted and I am taking over sharing. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Okay, there we go. And I also just wanted to quickly point out that Aneka found the answer to where did Point Roberts get their drinking water, and it's in the chat. And I had to close out the chat, but it was Well Fields by Twassen. Is that right, Aneka?
It's from Twice. Did you know that? Our waters from Twice.
Anyways, it's in the chat. We can circle back to that. Okay, I am filling in for Whatcom County. They have a new name. It's not the health department anymore. It's Whatcom County Health and Community Services. And unfortunately, their staff couldn't attend tonight, but I'm going to speak a little bit to their role in regulating and helping owners of private drinking water systems. And Patrick Hull wasn't able to attend tonight, but if you want to jot down his name, and that's the main line phone number there for the health department. He's happy to take any specific questions that we can't answer tonight. So again, that's Patrick Hull with Whatcom County Health and Community Services, and easy to find that phone number online. So just a brief, here's my cool visuals. So there's different types of private systems, and wells are by far the most common. So again, a private system is the private landowner, whether that's a homeowner or a company, big factory company owner. If you have your own water system for your own property and you're responsible for paying for installing it and maintaining it. So the well is the most common. I grew up on a well. We had really hard water. But if you're not familiar, the basic, of course, there's a drill. The well is drilled down into groundwater, how deep it is till you get a good reliable water source. This shows a submersible pump. I think the house I grew up in had a pump on the surface, which had, a little pump house over it to keep it protected. Of course, you have to have electricity going to that pump to operate it and get the water out. Then it goes into, just gonna move this here, goes into some sort of pressure tank in the house to maintain pressure, and then off to the, then it plumbed into the house. Also possible, but very rare here in Whatcom County, is to have a rainwater system. You could, it's unlikely, but it's possible to get the building permits and get the correct permits with the health department and have the special plumbing required to collect rainwater from your roof into a large storage tank like this cistern here and use that as your drinking water for your house. This is becoming more common in the San Juan Islands where they don't have good alternatives for water sources. So possible here, but very rare. And then I mentioned surface water withdrawals is also possible and rare, but there's homes on Lake Samish and Lake Whatcom in our community. There's some of them that get their water directly from the lake. And again, they have a pump and a pipe and it just comes out of the lake. So I am going to do a little show and tell. Whoops, back. Sorry. I am going to, I forgot to hyperlink this. I'm going to do a little show and tell for the Whatcom County Health Department's website and all the good information that they have on their drinking water program website. So if you need to navigate back here, just go to whatcomcounty.us and go to the health department and environment and drinking water, and it should you should be able to find it pretty easily. So there's some really great resources here for people who have their own private drinking water system. Again, this is almost entirely wells in our area. And I'm just going to point out a couple things. One is they have a little summary of all the different services that Whatcom County Health provides regarding private drinking water systems. They have FAQs here. So if you have a question, you might check here to see if you can get them answered. And then buried at the bottom in a not very intuitive heading, programs, is where the really good resources are, I think. So I just wanted to call out a few of them. One is if you want to do the deep dive into the coordinated water system plan for the county, It was last updated in 2019, and they're currently working on a new update in 2025. So if you want to get into the weeds with water planning in our county, you can go there. If you are a well owner concerned about is my water safe to drink? How do I even know? Well, how you know is you have to get it tested. So you have to take it into a lab, and not just any lab, a certified lab. So they have some really good resources here to help you with that process. So this one here is an information on the two certified by the Washington State Department of Ecology. So certified laboratories that can analyze a drinking water sample or a sample from your well water. And then you're like, well, okay, this is where I go. Well, what do I have? What do I get tested for? Well, they have this handy information on water testing PDF. And this is a little old, so prices may have gone up a fair amount, but they have a handy guide here on what type of pollution should you ask the lab to test your well for. And the labs should be quite knowledgeable too in offering you, making recommendations. I pulled up one of their websites the other day, and it comes right up: services, drinking water tested, and they can give you a quote and give you directions. But there's some good guidance here. So everyone should have their water tested for nitrate and coliform bacteria. If you live in an agricultural area where there might be pesticides or have a shallow well, then you're more at risk for some additional types of pollutants. And so they list them here. And again, some basic information on how much does it cost. Call and get a quote. It's going to vary widely, and it's going to depend, and prices may have gone up since they published this. How do you actually collect the sample? Well, the lab that you're working with will give you a bottle, and they'll give you directions to follow. And if you have any questions, again, I encourage you to contact Whatcom County Health and Community Services. That main number, 778-6000. You can ask for Patrick, or you just explain what your question is, and they'll get you to someone. Another handy resource on this website is, let's say you have hard water, or you have you took your water to get tested, and oh no, you have a problem with bacteria, or you need to treat your water somehow coming from your well. Well, you're going to need to find a qualified consultant or private, company that has the correct certifications and expertise to help you. And so Whatcom County, we can never recommend a private company for, we need to be impartial. But the health department is able to give like a directory of sorts for companies in this area that provide different types of water treatment consultations and services. And, some people, they just want a filter system to deal with hard water coming out of their well. If you have surface water, maybe you need some sort of a disinfection treatment to make sure there's no bacteria or viruses in your water. So those are some of the resources that I thought were really handy and answer some of the questions that I get from the public about drinking water. And with that, again, I am just standing in for the health department tonight, but if you have a question, we could see if we could find it on the website. And if not, then I would encourage you to reach out directly to Patrick.
Great, thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Maybe Ingrid, could you go back to the slide that has Patrick's contact information?
Yes.
Just so folks need to jot that down,
Yeah.
reach out to him directly. Or if you'd like to, feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions for us here today. Awesome.
Oops, sorry. So there's Patrick. So he's easy to find. Whatcom County Public Works Health. You just call that main number and ask your question, and they will route you to Patrick or one of his colleagues that can help you. And then I'm also just going to share my contact information too. I am also easy to find if you go to Whatcom County Public Works Natural Resources and call the number there and ask for Ingrid. But that's my direct line there.
Go ahead and put your contact information here in the chat. It seems like no questions are popping through from us here. So Cheryl, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Haley. So next, it is my pleasure to introduce George Kaas. George is our next speaker. He's going to talk to us about water associations, a little bit about how they're managed and regulated. And George has worked in the county for almost 50 years. During that time, he's held a variety of positions. His background in education and horticulture production and production agriculture allowed him to teach at Bellingham Technical College and Blaine High School. He also wrote a weekly gardening column in the Bellingham Herald for 23 years. Currently, George serves as a water commissioner for Water District Number 7 and also serves on a number of other water-related committees. And I'm going to be running George's slides tonight. So can you see the appropriate thing?
I can, yeah. And
Excellent.
Cheryl, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. A lot of the information has been very comprehensive so far, so hopefully I can give you a little bit of thumbnail as far as what water districts and what water associations are and how they fit into the whole scheme of and so if you're not drawing your water, you're drinking water from the city of Blaine, Bellingham, Linden, and you're not on a private well, then you're probably on.
Hey, Cheryl, we're just seeing, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. Looks like we're just seeing your presenter view. If you wanna.
Sorry, yeah, I was typing in the chat. The only way I know how to fix that is to only have one
There you go.
screen.
Is it working?
Yep, now it's on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, so you probably are a member of a water association or a member of a water district. And so what are they? And so we can go to that next slide. And if you can think of a water association or a district as almost like a homeowners association, but it's a nonprofit organization that's focused on, managing a water supply within particular boundaries of an area, and again, usually in rural areas. And so they'll finance and construct. It was earlier talked about as far as it's our job, to make sure that, there's pipes going to your house with mains, and we, properly manage the pressure as well as the water quality. Water is taken very seriously. Drinking water is taken very seriously in Whatcom County as well as in the state of Washington. Associations also educate safe water and proper water usage and conservation. Some of that is, a lot of our funding does come from governmental resources, particularly the USDA, and they also help us when, just like with the city, when sometimes in our case, the pipes are 50, 60, in some cases even 70 years old at this point, and they need to be upgraded. And so when that comes about, then we have to go back to our subscribers and say, you need to help us out on this. So it's our members, our subscribers, then buy into the association, become members of the association. So then the next slide, please, show. You've all seen this map so far a couple of times tonight, and you can zoom in probably on your own as well. But this comes from the County Coordinated Water System Plan, which is a great resource again, and it just kind of shows you the number of water associations as well as cities, but the number of water associations and water districts that are in the county, and some of them are quite small, where you're sharing a well with maybe five, with maybe five other residences. But you can see that if you're not in one of the major cities of uh, Whatcom County, then you're probably drawing water through a district or through an association. Next slide. So again, we have to follow a lot of the same rules that Peg was mentioning in terms of City of Bellingham, and our regulatory framework begins with the EPA, working with the State Department of Health, that gives each district the authority then to enforce the water drinking rules under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And Washington State Ecology also oversees a lot of the water rights and compliance, and in some cases, the boundaries that water districts and water associations operate in. State and local water systems operate under a number of operating code and permit requirements. And again, there's a slew of them that we have to abide by and often report out to. In Whatcom County, the Coordinated Water System Plan, and you've heard reference of that several times this evening already, identifies those permits, and also that plan is looking not only at the present needs of Whatcom County residents, but also the future, sometimes looking 10, 20 years into the future as far as what the water drinking systems are going to require, where the population is growing, and then, of course, how we are going to be able to meet some of those requirements. Each water district or water association has some kind of an operator system that maintains the integrity and the reliability of our water system. And so regular monitoring has to ensure the health for the users of that water and in compliance with the state and federal regulations. Each district is responsible for developing and implementing a water system management plan. And again, City of Bellingham, has a pretty extensive, comprehensive one, but at least every Group A water district also has to have their own water system management plan available to subscribers and the state and the federal government as well, that meets all the rules of all the agencies that are coordinating it. So even though we might be a lot smaller than City of Bellingham or City of Ferndale, we follow the same rules in that sense. So next slide. Specifically, Water District 7 has about 700 subscribers. We're a Group A, and again, you are either a Group A system, which includes your cities, or a Group B system, which are smaller. Sometimes I think the limit is up to 50 users over a particular amount of time, and then you have the well users, just the private wells. And Water District 7 is an area that's just north and east of Lake Whatcom watershed. We're just outside, we border the watershed, I guess. Our district consists of an administrator and a contracted operator that run the day-to-day operations. They're the folks that when you call with a question, or you're building a new home within the district and you want to hook up, or you have a leak, your water bill has gone up and you want to know why or what's going on. Those are the people that you would contact. There are three elected commissioners who then also oversee then the district operation and the fiscal compliance. And I'm a water district commissioner for District 7. And so we get together on a regular basis just to make sure that that we're following all the rules, that the reports are getting in, that we're able to meet our fiscal needs. In the case right now of we're looking at some big construction projects to upgrade our infrastructure, and so that's kind of what we do. We're not out digging holes or replacing mains, but we definitely are trying to make sure that everything is running properly. We don't have our own wells. We purchase water completely now from the city of Bellingham, but are responsible then for all the infrastructure to deliver that water to our subscribers, and then also to make sure that there's any upgrades. Next slide. There. Thanks. So that gives you kind of the boundaries of who District Water 7 is. If you remember a little bit of Peg's map, we are just to the north of where, to the north and east of where City of Bellingham serves. And so our boundary is approximately that little jagged line on the left is the Britain Road, and then we head east from there, clear over, well, quite a bit of Squalicum Mountain is involved there. Toad Lake area, Hillsdale, and quite a bit. We've got about 700 subscribers. Our southern, and our southern end is just about to Lake Whatcom. Okay, and the last question that I was given is that how do we know that our drinking water is safe? And again, districts report annually to subscribers, and that's that consumer confidence report that was talked about earlier, which is a requirement of the State Drinking Water Act, or the Safe Drinking Water Act. District 7, as I mentioned, is a reseller of water. And so all water that is sold by the district is purchased from the city of Bellingham, which has already been processed by that very comprehensive system that Peg was showing earlier. The city's water, and thus the district water, comes from Lake Whatcom. And this is a natural reservoir where the city draws its water from and then pumps it to the filtration plant over by Whatcom Falls to go through filtration and disinfection. And the city maintains a very comprehensive water quality testing. Water District 7 also tests for the presence regularly of coliform bacteria and residual chlorine on a regular basis. I'm the chlorine tester, and I do that on a daily basis. So we're able to monitor. Sometimes I'll get a call as far as, gee, my water smells a lot like chlorine, and that sometimes depends on kind of the ebb and flow of our water system, but we're definitely within the parameters of that. So then the last slide, I think, Cheryl, if you could bring that up. And this might be a little bit hard to read, but again, similar to the consumer confidence report that all our subscribers get, that hopefully assure them that we're doing our job in making sure that the water is clean and tested. Primarily, I mean, this is a complete assay of, you know, everything that we're looking at. People do have questions on, you know, chlorine, lead, copper, and then total fecal coliform. So even though we trust the quality of water that's coming out of the filtration plant that we buy from the city, we are also, you know, checking and monitoring the chlorine levels as well as fecal coliform twice a month within our district as well. And we don't have any lead pipe in the district. I don't think even in the city there's no lead piping, unless, you know, there might be some as far as residential, but even then there's been some studies that have been made, and I know that we don't have any lead in District 7. But that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of how water associations and water districts function. But if there's some questions, we can definitely take them.
Yeah, please feel free to either unmute yourself and ask your question or put a question in the chat if you have any questions for George. We'll give it a moment of uncomfortable silence. Give somebody a chance to type something.
It's important, I think, that, you know, people know where their water is from, and hopefully, you know, hopefully they do, or they know that they're either, you know, part of a city system, or if they're not part of a city system, then who's their association, or who's managing their wells, if they're sharing wells, and even if they're a small district, that, you know, water is still being checked on, and this is where the community health department becomes an important resource, as well as ecology, and you know, making sure that your water is safe to drink.
Yeah. Thank you so much, George. If anybody questions come up for George towards the end of the event overall, feel free to raise them then. But hearing nothing now, I think we should go ahead and move on.
Neat. So we're moving on to our final speaker of the night. I'm very excited to introduce Aneka Sweeney. She's going to chat with us today about water conservation. Aneka has a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Colorado Mesa University and a Master's of Education in Environmental Studies from WWU. She joined the district in 2014 to strengthen the community outreach and sustainable education programs. She works to enhance the impact of district programs by working directly with community groups, school districts, state, county, and city governments, as well as nonprofit organizations to further the mission of the Whatcom Conservation District. Specifically, she's been facilitating the Whatcom Water Alliance since 2019. Established in 2008, the Whatcom Water Alliance is a regional water conservation group comprised of municipalities and public water utilities in Whatcom County who recognize that regular coordination, collaboration, and communication can holistically improve management of local and regional water sources. All right, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And let me know when you can see my screen. Awesome. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to put in the chat a way to connect with us further. So this is the Whatcom Conservation District e-newsletter. So that is in the chat for you. Thanks so much for asking me to speak this evening. I'm going to be sort of focusing on the conservation end of Drinking Water 101. I'll just quickly, for those of you that might not be familiar with Whatcom Conservation District, since 1946, we've worked with landowners and land managers on natural resources in Whatcom County. We work at sort of that intersection between people and place. We provide an ecological understanding and deep connection to the land, resources, and economy. Most of our work focuses on promoting responsible stewardship, sustainable land management, and the support for natural resource-based economies. So we are a voluntary, non-regulatory state entity. So we focus on healthy land, healthy water, and healthy people. And our natural resource priorities focus on fish and wildlife habitat improvement, community agriculture, local food systems, working lands, productivity and conservation, community stormwater and habitat improvements, and climate resiliency and preparedness. And so the water conservation realm really falls into that climate resiliency and preparedness, natural resource priority. And as I was introduced by Haley, I've been able to work with the Whatcom Water Alliance and facilitating that group for the last 6 years. And so I'll be talking specifically about that. So Whatcom Water Alliance, this is a regional water conservation group, and it's comprised of all those Group A and Group B systems, as well as Whatcom County that represents all of the well users in Whatcom County. And it's all those different entities who recognize that regular coordination and collaboration and communication can holistically improve the management of this local and regional water resource. So it's actually been in existence since 2008. And I really feel honored to be able to work with this group of folks. We meet quarterly and do a variety of these things. So the focus of the Alliance is internal communication. The district creates sort of shared materials. We have a data portal. We do all the coordination. We have external communication, which I'll talk about today. We have a youth education program, and we have technical assistance program. So kind of dive in quickly, the internal communication with all these different groups. Everybody has bills that they put out. They have their CCRs, a consumer confidence report that they put out every year. They have their own websites. They have their own social media. What we've been able to do is maximize the efficiency of putting out water conservation messaging by sharing it with these groups that then share it more widely. And so there's a uniform message out to all community members, from Bellingham to Blaine to East County. So this is our external communication. So we have a website. So this is showing the website that exists, and I think Cheryl's going to put some of those links in the chat. And then we have a very robust social media presence that all members then engage with. So anybody who has a website or social media will share some of these posts. And the website focuses on lawns and landscaping, indoor water use, agricultural water use, our rebate program, and then the education and outreach, which includes seasonal campaigns that I'll get into here in a second. And in that website, there are online resources. So examples are on the screen right there on the right, and some how-to videos. So throughout the whole website, there's ways to dig in deeper, so you can help protect this resource. So some of the campaigns that we do, focusing on, and I'll kind of go through some seasonal one. Winterization doesn't seem very valid today on the hottest day yet of 2025. But broken pipes from freezing is a huge loss to the system. And that finite resource, our water, is just then sort of spilling out. So we do a lot of education around freezing. So how to insulate your spigots, drain your hoses, insulate those exposed pipes, just different ways that folks can be prepared in the fall for that winter freezing. We focus a lot on finding and fixing leaks. Did you know that a running toilet can use 200 gallons of water a day? Just a leaking toilet. So on the Whatcom Water Alliance website, we have ways that you can test to see if you have a leak in your toilet, and different ideas for finding and fixing leaks in some of your other appliances. We have a big focus on natural yard care. So how one manages your lawn and landscape affects both water quality and water supply. So we have a lot of suggestions around, mowing your grass higher so that those blades of grass sort of shade all the other parts of it, and you're actually able to attenuate more water in your soil. Reduce your lawn size. So we have folks here that have taken out their lawn and instead replaced it with native plants, and those native plants use less water, require less maintenance. And then, of course, to sort of water deeply to the roots, but less frequently. And we have some irrigation calculators also on that website. So again, smart watering, using this watering schedule. We have a summer watering schedule that all of the members of the Whatcom Water Alliance have adopted and share with their utility clients. Then we also recommend watering early or late in the day to reduce evaporation, checking your soil moisture, and then using smart irrigation timers. And of course, letting your lawn get a tan. Brown lawns are totally in now. And they'll green up in the fall if you're just watering them just once a month. Then the other piece that we have is we have a water saving pledge that we promote at many of our events. And by signing up for that pledge, you are eligible for some of the water savings incentives. So whether it's soil moisture probes or irrigation timers, etc. Now I'm going to get into our technical assistance program. So you're all here to find out about our rebates. So we've already, since 2022, saved over 1.5 million gallons of water with our rebate program. We have rebates for, I'm going to actually skip ahead to this slide. So we have rebates for high efficiency toilets. So if you're upgrading a toilet to a low flow toilet, you get $100 back. Our irrigation controllers, which are water smart irrigation controllers with soil sensors or soil moisture probes, and they're connected to weather systems, so they're able to identify whether you need to be watering or not. And then high efficiency clothes washers. And just this year, we are going to add probably in the next month, dishwashers as well. So $100 rebate on dishwashers. That's all on the website, Whatcom Water Alliance rebates. If folks are within the city of Bellingham's distribution, then they have their own rebate program that's associated within the Bellingham city limits. And we can then, which is very similar to this, and then we provide outside of that system. And then additionally, we serve over 1,000 youth every year. Mostly it's 4th grade classrooms receiving education on water use efficiency and takeaways, the giveaways as well through that. We have school districts, the Ferndale, Linden, Mount Baker, and Blaine school districts all are served through our water conservation education program. With our Whatcom Explorer mobile watershed is what it's showing here that the kids are engaging with. And we've been also in the Nooksack Valley School District been able to do some wellhead tours, both for Everson, Sumas, and Nooksack to really see where your water come from. That's our youth education program. So I zipped through that very quickly. Here is my email address and my phone number. Feel free to reach out. Please go to the Whatcom Water Alliance webpage. And you can also follow Whatcom Conservation District on social media. And that's where we get a lot of water conservation tips as well.
Hey, thank you so much. So a lot of links here in the chat if you want to get some more information about the Whatcom Water Alliance or the rebate programs or their newsletter. If you have any questions for Aneka, feel free again to drop them in the chat. Or if you're feeling froggy, go ahead and unmute yourself and we can hear them out loud. Okay, I think we've exhausted all of our questions here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So feel free, if a question pops up, go ahead and ask it. But I will go ahead and start closing us out. First thing I want to say is thank you so much for your interest in this really important topic. Thank you so much to our speakers for being willing to share your time and expertise with us tonight. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you so much to our audience for your interest. This has been recorded and will be posted on the Whatcom Watersheds Information Network webpage. So it's something that you can refer back to, or you can share it with other people. And then I also wanted to say that I also will send all of you an anonymous event feedback survey. We always like to follow up, find out how the event was for you, get your feedback, as well as ideas that you might have for future events that that would be interesting for you to learn more about. And if there are no further questions at this point, then I will go ahead and release you to your evenings. Peter Englander says, great presentation. Thank you for being so available.
Thank you.
Cheryl and Haley for facilitating.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.